Tonight, deep sleep is waiting for you. Right now, as you settle into stillness, your brain is already preparing to arrive there. You'll discover exactly what your body needs to let deep sleep happen. And why. Once you simply stop doing everything else, this one quiet state is the most powerful thing your nervous system will ever do. Welcome to Sleepy Mind Science. Wherever you are right now, perhaps lying in the soft warmth of your blankets, your body already beginning to grow heavy. Let yourself sink a little deeper into wherever you rest. We'll journey through 100 relaxing facts about deep sleep, from the first quiet moment your brain shifts out of wakefulness, to the hidden conditions that allow the deepest rest to arrive, to the ancient rhythms your body follows each and every night, guiding itself home. These gentle journeys through sleep science create a quiet community of resting minds. A soft like, subscribe, or sharing this video helps other sleepless souls find their way here and brings us closer to protecting this peaceful space. One sleepy soul at a time. Your presence here means everything to us. Let yourself settle completely now. Feel your shoulders drop away from your ears. Your hands uncurl. Your breathing soften and slow. You don't need to remember any of this. You don't need to hold on to anything at all. Simply let these quiet facts wash over you, like warm water rising slowly, drawing you down, gently, toward the deep and waiting dark of sleep. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where the waking world grows quiet and soft. Let your mind dissolve with each slow breath. And now we begin. Sleep is not one thing. It is a journey through several distinct stages, each with its own landscape of brain activity, physical changes, and purpose. Scientists divide sleep into two main types: NREM sleep, which stands for non-rapid eye movement, and REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. Within NREM sleep, there are three stages, numbered N1, N2, and N3. Deep sleep, the kind your body craves most after a long and tiring day, lives in stage N3. This is where the most powerful restoration happens. And tonight, we are going to explore every corner of it. Your body already knows the way there. All that is needed is the willingness to follow. When you first close your eyes and begin to drift, you enter the lightest stage of sleep, called N1. This brief and gentle transition lasts only a few minutes. Your heartbeat slows. Your breathing becomes more regular. Your muscles begin to release the tension they have held all day. Sometimes, in this borderland between waking and sleeping, you feel a sudden jerk, a twitch of the arms or legs, as though you have stepped off a curb in a dream. This is called a hypnic jerk, and it is entirely normal. It is simply the nervous system loosening its grip on the waking world, beginning the long, quiet descent toward rest. After N1, you slip into N2, a deeper stage of light sleep. Here, something rather beautiful happens inside your brain. Bursts of electrical activity, called sleep spindles, appear. These are brief, rhythmic waves of neural firing that surge and fade about 12 to 14 times per second. They are thought to play a role in protecting your sleep, helping the brain screen out sounds and disturbances from the outside world. Sleep spindles are also connected to memory, helping the mind consolidate what it has learned during the day. You spend roughly half of your entire night's sleep in N2. It is the most visited room in the house of sleep, and the body passes through it willingly, without effort, each time the conditions for rest are right. Alongside sleep spindles in N2, scientists also observe structures called K-complexes. These are single, sharp waves that appear spontaneously in the sleeping brain, and they may represent a kind of gentle system check. The brain briefly acknowledging a stimulus from the environment without waking. A distant sound, a change in temperature, a subtle shift in the room. The brain notices, responds softly, and returns to quiet. K-complexes appear in a particularly well-defined form in human sleep. While similar waveforms have been observed in other mammals, the distinctive sharp wave structure seen in humans is among the more characteristic features of our species' sleep architecture. It is a signature written in the language of the sleeping brain. Then comes N3, deep sleep. Scientists also call this slow wave sleep because of the distinctive pattern it creates on a brain scan. Instead of the fast, jagged waves of wakefulness, the brain now produces large, slow, rolling oscillations called delta waves. These waves move at a frequency of just half a hertz to 4 hertz, which means they complete somewhere between 1 and 4 cycles every second. In comparison, the brain, during active waking thought, produces waves moving 20 to 40 times per second, sometimes faster. Deep sleep is the brain at its most synchronized. Tens of billions of neurons breathing together in a slow, unified tide. And right now, even as you listen, your brain is moving in that direction. The delta waves of deep sleep are not merely slow, they are large. The amplitude of these waves, meaning the height of each peak and valley, is greater than 75 microvolts, roughly 3 times taller than the waves seen during lighter sleep stages. This high amplitude reflects a profound coordination across the brain's surface. During deep sleep, vast sheets of neurons enter a pattern of firing and silence, firing and silence, over and over again. It is not a shutdown. It is a deeply organized rhythm, as structured and purposeful as the tides, and the body arrives at these waves not through effort, but through conditions. The right temperature, the right quiet, the right letting go, exactly what you are practicing right now. Deep sleep is hardest to wake from. If someone were to try to rouse you from N3, they would need to work considerably harder than at any other stage of sleep. And if they succeeded, you would feel slow and deeply settled for several minutes. The way someone feels stepping from a warm bath into cool air, present, but not yet fully arrived. This temporary stillness is called sleep inertia, and it is a sign of how profoundly the brain has departed from the waking state. It is not weakness, it is depth, and it is one of the clearest signs that deep sleep has done exactly what it was meant to do. Most of your deep sleep happens in the first half of the night. The body and brain prioritize deep sleep early, as if they understand that this stage is the most urgent, the most needed. As the night progresses, cycles of deep sleep grow shorter, while periods of REM sleep grow longer toward morning. A typical adult cycles through all sleep stages roughly 4 to 6 times per night, with each cycle lasting between 90 minutes and 110 minutes. Deep sleep anchors the beginning of that cycle. It is the foundation the night is built upon, and the body lays that foundation first, every time, without being asked. How much deep sleep do you actually get on a healthy night in a young adult? Deep sleep accounts for somewhere between 13 and 23% of total sleep time over an 8-hour night. That translates to roughly 1 to 2 hours of slow-wave sleep. As we age, this proportion tends to decline, and the slow, rolling delta waves that define deep sleep become less frequent. This is one reason many older adults report feeling less fully rested despite sleeping adequate hours. The quantity of sleep may be maintained, but the quality and depth of the most restorative stage can diminish with time. One of the most meaningful things you can do for that depth is simply to allow the conditions for it to exist, night after night. So what is actually happening inside you during deep sleep? One of the most important things is that a system of waste removal activates. The brain has its own dedicated cleaning network called the glymphatic system, a name created by combining the words glial, referring to the brain's supporting cells, and lymphatic, referring to the body's fluid drainage system. This system was first formally described in 2012. And it changed the way scientists understand what sleep is actually for. The glymphatic system may be one of the most important reasons your brain needs to sleep at all. And deep sleep is the state in which it works best. You do not need to do anything to activate it. You simply need to sleep. The glymphatic system works by pumping cerebrospinal fluid, a clear liquid that surrounds and cushions the brain through narrow channels in the brain tissue. This fluid flows in along tiny spaces beside the blood vessels, sweeps through the brain like a gentle rinse, and carries waste products out along a different set of channels. The whole process is a slow, rhythmic circulation that moves continuously while you sleep. Think of it as the overnight cleaning crew arriving after the building has emptied, moving quietly through every corridor, clearing what the day has left behind, without noise, without hurry, without any direction from you. Among the waste products removed by the glymphatic system during deep sleep are proteins called amyloid beta and tau. Both of these proteins, when they accumulate in the brain over time, are associated with the development of Alzheimer's disease and related conditions. Research has shown that even a single night of poor sleep can reduce the clearance of these proteins in the human brain. Over years and decades, insufficient deep sleep may allow these proteins to accumulate faster than the brain's cleaning system can remove them. This is one reason sleep scientists increasingly view chronic poor sleep as a long-term health concern worth taking seriously. And one more reason that the quiet hours of deep sleep tonight are worth protecting. A study published in January 2025 in the journal Cell revealed a new and precise mechanism behind glymphatic cleaning during sleep. Working with animal models, scientists found that waves of a chemical called norepinephrine, the brain's alertness signal, oscillate slowly and rhythmically during NREM sleep. As norepinephrine rises and falls in these gentle pulses, the brain's blood vessels contract and relax in coordination. This slow vascular breathing creates a pumping action that moves cerebrospinal fluid through the brain tissue. The deeper the sleep, the more regular these oscillations, and the more efficient the cleaning. It is an elegant, rhythmic system that operates entirely without your awareness, tending to the brain while you rest. That same animal study revealed something worth knowing for anyone who uses sleep medications. When mice were given zolpidem, a common sleep aid, they fell asleep faster. But the norepinephrine oscillations during deep sleep were reduced by roughly half, and the flow of fluid into the brain tissue dropped by more than 30%. The researchers noted these findings likely have implications for humans who share a similar glymphatic system, though direct human data is still being gathered. The study raises a thoughtful question. What does it mean to truly sleep deeply? And not simply to be sedated? That question has no simple answer yet, but it is one the scientific community is actively exploring. Alongside the glymphatic cleaning process, deep sleep is also the time when the brain restores its supply of a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This is the primary energy currency of every cell in the body. During waking hours, neurons burn through tremendous amounts of ATP as they fire, communicate, and process information. As the day wears on, a byproduct of this energy use called adenosine accumulates in the brain, creating the growing heaviness and fog that makes it harder to think clearly as evening approaches. During NREM sleep, especially deep sleep, the brain restores this energy and clears the accumulated adenosine. Waking from good, deep sleep, you are, in a very real sense, chemically refreshed, rebuilt from the inside out. The temperature of your body plays a quiet but powerful role in bringing on deep sleep. In the hours before and during sleep onset, your core body temperature drops by roughly 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. This is not accidental. It is an active process regulated by a region of the brain called the hypothalamus, the body's master thermostat. Cooler core temperatures signal the nervous system to shift toward the deeper sleep states. This is one reason that a slightly cool bedroom, somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, tends to support better sleep for most people. The body is already reaching for cool to find rest. A cool room simply reaches back, making the path to deep sleep a little easier to take. During deep sleep, your heart rate slows to its lowest point of the night. Breathing becomes slow, regular, and steady, with no sudden changes in rhythm or depth. Blood pressure drops. The muscles of the body are relaxed but not paralyzed. This is different from REM sleep, during which the body's large muscles become temporarily still to prevent you from acting out your dreams. In deep sleep, the body is simply at profound rest. Every system that can slow down slows down. And within that slowing, within that collective quieting of every function, something essential is being returned to you. Growth hormone is released primarily during deep sleep. This is not a coincidence. Growth hormone, produced by the pituitary gland near the base of the brain, is essential for the repair and rebuilding of body tissues. It signals muscles to absorb amino acids and build new protein. It stimulates the breakdown of fat for energy. In children, it drives physical growth. In adults, it maintains the health of nearly every organ and tissue in the body. The largest surge of growth hormone in any 24-hour period happens within the first hour or two of falling asleep, timed almost precisely with the arrival of deep, slow-wave sleep. It arrives on its own, without your effort, simply because the conditions of deep sleep have been met. A study published in 2025 by researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, mapped the specific brain circuits behind growth hormone release during sleep. They identified a feedback system deep in the hypothalamus, involving two types of specialized neurons. One type releases a signal that triggers growth hormone production. The other acts as a brake, suppressing it when enough has been released. During deep sleep, these two systems enter a coordinated rhythm, producing the characteristic surge and then gentle tapering of growth hormone across the night. Understanding this circuit may one day inform treatments for sleep disorders linked to metabolic conditions, as well as diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. For now, it is enough to know the system is there, doing its careful work while you rest. The immune system is profoundly shaped by what happens during deep sleep. While you rest, the body produces and distributes cytokines, small signaling proteins that coordinate the immune response. Some cytokines actively promote deeper sleep, creating a gentle feedback loop where the body uses sleep itself to recover from illness. When you have a cold or flu, the pull towards sleep you feel is real and purposeful. Your immune system is not merely tolerating your rest, it is using it. Studies have shown that people who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night are meaningfully more susceptible to common viral infections than those who sleep 7 to 9 hours. Deep sleep is not separate from your health. It is one of the ways health maintains itself. During deep sleep, the brain consolidates declarative memories, the kind that can be consciously recalled and put into words. The names of people, historical events, facts learned during the day, the details of conversations. This consolidation process involves a coordination between a seahorse-shaped brain structure called the hippocampus, where new memories are initially formed, and the vast surface of the brain, called the cortex, where memories are stored for the long term. During deep sleep, brief bursts of activity, called sharp wave ripples in the hippocampus, appear to replay the day's experiences, sending information outward to the cortex for longer-term storage. Sleep is not a pause in your learning. It is an active continuation of it. The sleep spindles of N2 sleep and the slow oscillations of deep sleep appear to work together in this memory consolidation process. Scientists have found that the slow rhythms of deep sleep seem to coordinate the timing of sleep spindles, creating windows of synchronized quiet into which hippocampal signals can be inscribed into the cortex. It is a precisely choreographed three-way conversation, happening dozens of times per hour during NREM sleep, invisible to your waking awareness, but absolutely essential to who you will be when you wake. What you learn during the day is only half the work. Deep sleep, arriving quietly on its own, does the rest. Research from Mass General Brigham, published in 2025, used simultaneous brain scanning, combining electrical recordings, blood flow imaging, and glucose metabolism measurement all at once, to observe what happens inside the human brain as it crosses from wakefulness into sleep. The researchers found a coordinated shift. As the brain descended into NREM sleep, regions involved in thinking, memory, and daydreaming grew quiet and used less energy. Meanwhile, areas involved in sensory processing remained somewhat active. still monitoring the environment for important signals. The brain does not switch off when you fall asleep. It reorganizes, turning its attention inward, tending to what the waking hours could not reach. During deep sleep, the flow of cerebrospinal fluid through the brain's ventricles increases measurably. Researchers have observed large, slow waves of fluid pulsing through these cavities in rhythm with the brain's slow electrical waves. This fluid movement is thought to help drive the glymphatic cleaning process. A study using brain imaging and sleep recording found that as slow delta waves swept across the brain during deep sleep, pulses of cerebrospinal fluid followed almost exactly 1 second later, as if the electrical wave were drawing the fluid in behind it, like a tide drawn by the moon. The body's cleaning system has its own tide, and it arrives reliably whenever you give yourself the gift of deep sleep. The architecture of a full night's sleep is a map of biological priorities. Deep sleep comes first. Your body treats it as the most urgent need, filling it in as soon as you fall asleep, before anything else is attended to. As the night progresses, the deep sleep stages grow shorter, and REM sleep grows longer. By the final cycle of the night, there may be very little deep sleep at all. This is why cutting sleep short costs you far more in dreaming and emotional processing than in deep sleep. But losing the beginning of the night costs you the foundation. Tonight, you are giving your body what it needs most. It knows exactly what to do with it. Let's pause here and notice your body. Right now, in this moment, your brain is already beginning to shift. As you breathe out slowly, feel the simple weight of your body where it rests. Beneath your awareness, trillions of cells are working in perfect silence. Heart beating, lungs breathing, neurons settling into slower and quieter waves. Your body has been sleeping since long before you were born into it. It knows this rhythm. It has always known. Notice the gentle heaviness moving through your muscles, along your spine, behind your eyes. You're a complete and self-sustaining system, tending to itself, without your direction, without your effort. Now we continue. The thalamus, a small egg-shaped structure deep in the center of the brain, acts as the gatekeeper of deep sleep. During waking hours, the thalamus routes sensory information from the body to the cortex, keeping the brain continuously updated on the outside world. As sleep begins, the thalamus starts to close this gate. It generates sleep spindles that effectively block incoming sensory signals from reaching the cortex. This is why the sleeping brain becomes progressively less responsive to sound, touch, and light as the night deepens. The thalamus is not merely quiet during sleep. It is actively guarding your rest, standing watch so that the deeper parts of you can descend without interruption. The slow oscillations of deep sleep travel across the brain in a predictable direction, moving from the front to the back, wave after wave. A gentle tide of neural quiet sweeping rearward across the cortex. From 30 to 90 times each hour during N3 sleep, scientists who study the glymphatic system have noted that this directional sweep of slow electrical activity appears to coincide with the direction of cerebrospinal fluid flow through the brain. The electrical wave may be physically drawing the fluid in behind it. The brain is not merely cleaning itself during deep sleep. It may be using its own rhythm as the engine of that cleaning. The electricity, and the fluid moving together like breath and tide. The brain's electrical activity during deep sleep is called synchronized because vast numbers of neurons fire and then fall silent all at once, creating those large, coordinated waves. During wakefulness and during REM sleep, the brain is in a desynchronized state, with different neurons firing independently, creating the fast, low-amplitude patterns of an active mind. The shift to synchrony during deep sleep is one of the most dramatic changes in the entire brain. Tens of billions of neurons, each separated from the next by tiny gaps called synapses, somehow coordinate into one slow, unified breath. How this synchronization begins and sustains itself remains one of the beautiful open questions in neuroscience. For now, it is enough to know that your brain is capable of this and that it chooses it. Every night, your body's largest organ, the skin, follows its own repair cycle during sleep. Cell division in the skin reaches its highest rate during the nighttime hours, particularly in the early morning hours when growth hormone levels are elevated. New skin cells are produced to replace those shed during the day. DNA. Damage accumulated from sunlight and environmental exposure is more actively repaired during sleep. The skin's barrier function, its ability to retain moisture and resist irritants, is partially restored overnight. The phrase beauty sleep is not entirely folklore. There is a real biology of overnight skin renewal that the hormonal environment of deep sleep helps coordinate, quietly, without any effort on your part. The relationship between sleep and learning was first systematically studied in the early 20th century, but the understanding has deepened considerably in recent decades. Scientists now know that the learning process has at least two distinct phases. The first is encoding, taking in new information while awake. The second is consolidation, which happens primarily during sleep, and especially during the slow wave and N2 sleep stages. Without adequate sleep after learning, the encoded information is more likely to degrade or be forgotten. You can study as diligently as you wish during the day, but without the night that follows, much of that effort quietly dissolves. Deep sleep does not wait to be thanked. It simply does the work. Sleep spindles during N2 sleep have been specifically linked to the consolidation of procedural memories, the kind that involve physical skills, playing a musical instrument, learning a new sport, practicing a delicate technique. These forms of learning appear to benefit particularly from the rhythmic bursts of spindle activity during sleep. Studies have found that the density of sleep spindles after a day of motor learning correlates with how much performance improves overnight. The sleeping brain is not simply replaying what you practiced. It is quietly refining it, smoothing out the rough edges, preparing you to perform better tomorrow than you did today. The prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for judgment, planning, impulse control, and emotional regulation, is among the most sensitive areas of the brain to insufficient sleep, even mild sleep reduction. Just 1 or 2 hours fewer than your body needs over several nights meaningfully affects prefrontal function. Decision-making becomes less flexible. Emotional reactions become more intense and less regulated. The connection between poor sleep and difficult days is not a matter of willpower or attitude. It is a matter of brain biology. Deep sleep, in particular, appears essential for resetting this region. for returning it to the calm, clear state from which the best of you operates. Emotions are processed and regulated during sleep in ways scientists are only beginning to understand. During REM sleep, the dreaming stage, the brain revisits emotional memories. One leading theory proposes that during this stage, the stress-related chemical norepinephrine is significantly reduced, and this chemical quiet may allow the brain to soften difficult experiences without the full force of the original emotional response. This remains an active area of research, with promising but still emerging evidence in humans during NREM sleep and deep sleep especially. Emotional memories may be further sorted and weighted, the brain deciding, without your conscious input, which feelings to carry forward and which to release into the dark. Research has found that people who regularly get insufficient deep sleep show higher activity in the brain's amygdala, the region most associated with fear and threat responses in reaction to mildly negative images or situations. The amygdala becomes more reactive when sleep is poor. The prefrontal cortex, which normally modulates and contextualizes the amygdala's responses, loses some of its steadying influence. The result is a world that feels more difficult, not because the world has changed, but because the brain has lost some of its cushioning. Deep sleep is part of what keeps the world at a manageable distance. And the conditions that allow deep sleep to arrive, the quiet, the cool, the stillness, are exactly what you are cultivating tonight. Sleep and pain tolerance are closely connected. Studies have consistently shown that insufficient sleep, and particularly insufficient deep sleep, lowers the threshold for pain sensitivity. Structures in the brain that normally dampen pain signals become less effective after poor sleep. Conversely, improving sleep quality tends to reduce the subjective experience of pain. This has meaningful implications for people living with chronic pain conditions, for whom pain and poor sleep often form a reinforcing cycle. The pain disrupts sleep. The disrupted sleep makes the pain feel more present. Breaking that cycle, often through improving the conditions for sleep, can shift the experience considerably. The muscles of the body undergo their most significant repair during deep sleep. Growth hormone, surging during the first cycles of N3, signals muscle cells to take up amino acids from the bloodstream and synthesize new protein to replace damaged fibers. Athletes and those who work physically have long understood intuitively that sleep is essential for recovery. And the science confirms this. Studies of elite athletes have found that deliberately sleeping longer improves performance, reduces injury rates, and speeds recovery from training-related muscle damage. The muscle repair that happens during sleep is not a luxury added on top of rest. It is the biological purpose of that rest. Bones also rebuild themselves during sleep. The hormone that regulates bone density and growth operates on a circadian rhythm, with activity peaking during the nighttime hours. Deep sleep supports the hormonal environment that bone remodeling requires in growing children and adolescents. The relationship between sleep and bone development is particularly clear. Chronic sleep restriction during childhood has been associated with slower skeletal development. The skeleton is not a fixed structure. It is continuously dissolving and rebuilding itself. And it does some of its most important work while you sleep. The hormone leptin, which signals fullness and suppresses appetite, is partly regulated by sleep. Sleep deprivation has been shown to reduce leptin levels and increase levels of ghrelin, the hormone that stimulates hunger. This combination creates a physiological tendency toward overeating after poor sleep. Studies have found that people who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night tend to consume more calories, particularly from carbohydrate-rich foods, than those who sleep 7 to 9 hours. The relationship between sleep and weight is not simply a matter of energy expenditure. It passes directly through the hormonal changes that deep sleep produces. Gently, and without your having to think about it, blood sugar regulation depends significantly on deep sleep. During N3 sleep, insulin sensitivity tends to be at its highest, meaning the body's cells respond more effectively to insulin and remove glucose from the bloodstream efficiently. Reduced deep sleep has been associated with decreased insulin sensitivity and higher fasting blood sugar levels over time. This is one reason that chronic sleep disruption is considered a meaningful risk factor for type 2 diabetes. The pancreas, the liver, and the muscles all participate in this nightly metabolic recalibration. Deep sleep coordinates it all. Quietly, in the background, while you rest. A large long-term study found that people with consistently poor sleep showed meaningful changes over time in the brain regions responsible for memory and cognition. This finding, more than almost anything else in recent sleep research, reminds us that the quiet hours of deep sleep are not passive. They are the brain's most active investment in its own long-term health. And that investment pays out not in any single night, but in the accumulated result of many nights of genuine rest. Nights like this one. You're still here, still listening, still drifting gently through these quiet facts. Take a slow breath. Notice how your body feels just a little heavier than it did when we started. Like gravity has grown gentler, pulling you softly downward. We're exploring the mystery of deep sleep together. You and I, moving slowly through the science of the most restoring state your body knows. There's no rush, no destination. Let's continue. The glymphatic system is most active during NREM deep sleep, particularly N3, when delta wave activity is highest. Research published in 2025 confirmed that the efficiency of glymphatic function correlates with the strength of delta activity during sleep. The higher the amplitude and frequency of slow waves during deep sleep, the more effective the brain's cleaning process. This is one more reason that the quality of deep sleep matters as much as its quantity. A longer night that contains little N3 may offer far less brain cleaning than a shorter night rich in slow wave activity. The body's own cleaning rhythm follows your sleep, not your clock. Sleeping position may influence how effectively the glymphatic system clears waste from the brain. Animal studies have suggested that the lateral or side sleeping to position allows for more efficient cerebrospinal fluid flow through the perivascular channels compared to sleeping on the back or stomach. Researchers have proposed that this positional effect may be meaningful over a lifetime of sleep. While the evidence in humans remains preliminary and continues to be investigated, it is a finding that adds another dimension to the quiet geometry of rest. Sometimes the simplest adjustments, the angle of the head, the temperature of the room, quietly change what the night can do. The electrical waves of deep sleep are not perfectly uniform across the brain's surface. They vary in frequency, amplitude, and distribution, reflecting the local needs of different brain regions. A region that worked especially hard during the day tends to produce stronger slow-wave activity during the subsequent night. This regional specificity suggests that slow-wave sleep is not a blunt, the global state, but a precisely targeted process. Different parts of the brain receiving the restoration they individually need. The brain is a self-regulating system. Given the right conditions, it knows how to tend to itself, right down to which corner needs the most attention. This localized quality of deep sleep is connected to a concept scientists call sleep homeostasis. The longer you are awake, the more sleep pressure builds up in the brain, represented by accumulating adenosine. When you finally sleep, the depth of slow-wave activity is proportional to how much sleep pressure has built. A night of extended wakefulness will be followed by noticeably richer deep sleep in the next night's rest. The brain is keeping a running account of its debt, and deep sleep is how it pays itself back. The body never forgets what it is owed. The neurons of the hypothalamus regulate the transition into deep sleep. One particular group, called the ventrolateral preoptic nucleus, becomes highly active as sleep begins and promotes the deep sleep state by releasing inhibitory signals that quiet the brain's arousal systems. These neurons are mutually suppressive with the wakefulness-promoting systems of the brain, creating what some researchers describe as a bistable switch, a system that tends to be either fully awake or fully asleep, with relatively little time spent between. This is part of why the transition into deep sleep, once it truly arrives, feels complete. The body does not sleep halfway. It commits. The cardiovascular system benefits profoundly from regular deep sleep. During N3, blood pressure drops to its lowest level of the night, giving the heart and blood vessels a period of reduced demand and quiet recovery. People whose blood pressure does not drop sufficiently during sleep are at meaningfully higher risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. The nightly pressure drop during deep sleep appears to serve as a protective reset for the entire cardiovascular system. The heart, like the brain, uses the quiet of deep sleep to do its most essential maintenance, and it does so every night, reliably. As long as the conditions for deep sleep are allowed to exist, the lungs also participate in the rhythms of deep sleep. Breathing during N3 becomes slower and more regular than at any other time of day or night. The respiratory control centers of the brainstem shift into a steady, unhurried pattern. Oxygen levels remain stable. Carbon dioxide is efficiently exchanged. This regularity is not monotony. It is precision, the body breathing at its most efficient, untroubled by the fluctuations of emotion, movement, or thought. You can notice your own breath right now, moving in that direction, slowing, deepening, finding its most natural rhythm. The kidneys slow their filtration rate during deep sleep. Urine production decreases. The body conserves water and electrolytes more carefully during the nighttime hours. This is regulated in part by a hormone called antidiuretic hormone, which rises during sleep and signals the kidneys to hold more fluid. This is why most healthy adults can sleep through the night without needing to wake. The body manages its fluid balance around the architecture of sleep, treating the night as a time of conservation, holding everything gently in place until morning. In the transition through deep sleep, the body's sympathetic nervous system, the alert and responsive system, grows quieter. The parasympathetic nervous system, sometimes called the rest and digest system, increases in tone. Heart rate variability, a measure of the flexibility of the heart's rhythm, tends to increase during deep sleep in healthy individuals. Higher heart rate variability during sleep is associated with better cardiovascular health and better resilience to stress. The body in deep sleep is practicing a kind of physiological ease, a flexible readiness that carries forward into waking life. Rest is not the absence of strength. It is where strength is rebuilt. Halfway through our journey, and what is emerging, quietly and clearly, is a picture of deep sleep as not one thing, but many things happening simultaneously. A brain cleaning itself, a body rebuilding its tissues, a hormonal system resetting, an immune network strengthening, a memory archive organizing, a nervous system cooling its engines. All of this in the same 1 to 2 hours at the beginning of your night. This is why deep sleep is not merely rest. It is the most productive state your biology is capable of. And the answer to how to reach it is already becoming clear. You stop trying. You create the conditions, and you trust what the body knows how to do. Let yourself pause here in the middle of this journey. Time, right now, belongs only to you. The world continues to turn, somewhere beyond the quiet of this room. But this moment, the one you are breathing in right now, is yours alone. There is nowhere you need to be. Nothing you need to do. No effort required from you now. Your body has been learning to sleep for your entire life. Long before you knew the name of sleep. Long before you knew anything at all. Your cells already knew this rhythm. You are simply following something ancient and certain. And we continue. When a night of sleep is disrupted, the body responds by prioritizing deep sleep in subsequent nights. If N3 sleep is lost due to noise, stress, or illness, the brain will attempt to recover it before recovering any other stage. This recovery deep sleep is richer in slow-wave activity than a typical night, as if the brain is making up for what it missed with extra thoroughness. Scientists call this rebound sleep, and it demonstrates something important. The drive toward deep sleep is not just a preference. It is a biological imperative. The body will find its way back to N3 whenever it is given the conditions to do so. Caffeine works by mimicking the shape of adenosine and binding to adenosine receptors in the brain, blocking the signal that would otherwise accumulate and encourage sleep. This is why caffeine reduces feelings of tiredness, but it does not reduce the actual sleep pressure that has built up. The adenosine debt continues to accumulate behind the blockade. When caffeine finally clears from the system, the accumulated adenosine floods in all at once, creating a sudden, heavy tiredness. More importantly, caffeine consumed in the afternoon or evening can measurably suppress the amount of deep N3 sleep you get that night. Even if you feel that it does not affect how quickly you fall asleep, letting caffeine go earlier in the day is one of the clearest pathways to deeper sleep. Alcohol is widely misunderstood as a sleep aid. While it does reduce the time it takes to fall asleep and may increase the depth of very early sleep, it meaningfully fragments sleep in the second half of the night. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep for the first several hours after drinking and reduces the quality of slow-wave sleep overall. Regular alcohol use before bed is associated with decreased deep sleep, lighter sleep architecture, and more nighttime awakenings. The sedating effect of alcohol is not the same as the restorative effect of natural deep sleep, allowing the evening to be alcohol-free. When possible, allows the night to do its full work. The temperature of the sleeping environment powerfully influences the depth and quality of N3 sleep. The ideal sleeping temperature for most adults is somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Below this range, the body may divert energy to staying warm, disrupting the deeper sleep stages. Above this range, the body may struggle to achieve the core temperature drop that promotes N3 sleep. Studies have found that warming the skin, such as by taking a warm bath in the hour before bed, can actually promote faster sleep onset and more deep sleep by drawing blood to the surface of the skin and accelerating the loss of core body heat. A cool room, a warm bath, a quieter evening. These simple conditions let the body find its way to deep sleep more easily. Exercise is one of the most reliably effective ways to increase the amount and depth of slow-wave sleep. Regular moderate-intensity exercise has been shown to increase N3 sleep duration, strengthen delta wave amplitude, and reduce the time it takes to fall asleep. The mechanisms behind this are still being studied, but they likely involve the increased adenosine that physical activity produces, the metabolic demands that muscle repair places on the sleep system, and the effects of exercise on body temperature regulation. Even a single session of moderate exercise can produce a meaningful improvement in the quality of deep sleep that same night. Movement during the day is one of the most direct investments you can make in the depth of your sleep. Light is one of the most powerful regulators of the entire sleep-wake cycle. The eye contains specialized cells that respond specifically to blue wavelength light, the kind that is most abundant in daylight and in the light produced by screens and energy-efficient bulbs. These cells send signals directly to the brain's master clock, which uses light input to synchronize the body's circadian rhythm. Exposure to blue spectrum light in the evening delays the onset of the biological night, making it harder to fall into and maintain deep sleep. Dimming the lights as evening progresses and reducing screen use in the last hour before bed gives the brain the signal it needs to begin preparing for deep sleep. Melatonin is often misunderstood. It is not a sleeping pill. It does not produce sleep directly. It is a hormone produced by the pineal gland that signals to the body that darkness has arrived. It sets the stage for sleep by coordinating a cascade of biological changes, including the drop in core body temperature and the shift in alertness. But it does not itself create the state of sleep. Melatonin levels rise about 2 hours before your habitual sleep time and remain elevated through the night. Bright light in the evening suppresses this rise. Consistent darkness in the bedroom and consistent sleep timing gives melatonin the conditions it needs to rise on schedule, making the path to deep sleep arrive naturally and on time. The circadian rhythm, the roughly 24-hour biological clock that regulates sleep and wakefulness, operates in every cell of the body, not just in the brain. Liver cells, heart cells, immune cells, and cells in the gut all contain molecular clock machinery that coordinates their activity with the time of day. Sleep, and particularly deep sleep, is one of the primary synchronizing signals for these peripheral clocks. When sleep is disrupted or shifted out of its natural timing, these cellular clocks can fall out of alignment with each other. Consistent sleep and wake times, more than almost any other single habit, help keep the entire body's rhythm unified and the conditions for deep sleep reliably present. The master circadian clock of the brain, located in the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, contains roughly 20,000 neurons. Each one carries its own internal oscillating mechanism, built from a small set of genes that activate and suppress each other in a self-sustaining loop with a period of approximately 24 hours, even when removed from the body and placed in a dish in a laboratory. These neurons continue to oscillate in near-perfect synchrony. The clock does not need the outside world to run. It runs independently. Light and temperature and social cues simply keep it aligned with the world outside. Your internal clock is always ticking towards sleep. You need only meet it there. Recent research found that people with multiple healthy lifestyle habits, including consistently restorative sleep, showed brain age estimates up to 8 years younger than expected for their chronological age. As measured by brain imaging, the researchers noted that positive sleep, alongside stress management and social connection, appears to buffer the brain against the accelerated aging that chronic stress and poor lifestyle impose. The brain's structural health, its thickness, its functional connectivity, is maintained in part by the nightly work of deep sleep. A life of good sleep is, in a very quiet and cumulative way, a life of protection given to the brain itself. During deep sleep, the brain produces a type of electrical event called a sharp wave ripple in the hippocampus. These events last only a fraction of a second, but carry a burst of neural activity representing recently encoded memories. The sharp wave ripples travel outward from the hippocampus to the prefrontal cortex and other storage areas, where the memories are gradually transferred and integrated into long-term networks. Scientists have been able to observe this replay process and have found that the hippocampus appears to compress minutes-long experiences into just seconds of sleep time, filing them efficiently into the brain's long-term archive, while the conscious mind rests elsewhere. Sleep spindles appear to create a buffer zone around these hippocampal replay events during N2 sleep. The spindles temporarily quiet the cortex, creating windows of receptive stillness into which the replayed memory signals can be inscribed. Without sufficient spindle activity, the transfer of information from hippocampus to cortex is less efficient. This may be one reason why certain conditions that reduce spindle density, including aging and some sleep disturbances, are associated with less reliable memory consolidation. The brain's nightly memory filing system depends on very specific orchestration, and that orchestration begins the moment you close your eyes. The notion that humans have always slept in one continuous block through the night may not be historically accurate. Some historians and anthropologists have found evidence suggesting that before the widespread use of artificial light, many people slept in 2 distinct periods, with a quiet interval of wakefulness in the middle of the night. Historical documents from medieval Europe reference a first sleep and second sleep as natural and separate intervals. Whether this pattern reflects something biologically fundamental or is primarily shaped by culture and light exposure remains an open question. What it suggests, gently, is that waking in the night is not always a failure of sleep. Sometimes, it is simply part of how the body finds its rest. The brain during deep sleep generates slow oscillations that begin in the prefrontal cortex and sweep rearward. This front-to-back direction may reflect a hierarchy in the brain, with the prefrontal cortex serving as a pacemaker for the slow rhythms that define deep sleep. Some researchers believe this is part of why the prefrontal cortex is one of the first areas to show signs of difficulty under sleep deprivation. It both initiates the deep sleep that restores it and is one of the areas most dependent on that restoration. The brain loops back to care for its own most effortful part. There is something quietly tender about that. We understand now that deep sleep is not a passive state. It is a state of profound biological activity, organized differently from waking activity, but no less purposeful. The brain and body are, in a very real sense, doing some of their most important work during the hours you spend unconscious. The maintenance, the repair, the consolidation, the cleaning, all of this requires energy, coordination, and time. Deep sleep is the time the body has reserved for the work that cannot be done while living in the world. And the most important thing you can do to allow that work to happen is exactly what you are already doing. The phenomenon of sleep inertia, that slow, settled feeling after being woken from deep sleep, is caused by the sudden interruption of the slow wave state. The brain's arousal systems, which were suppressed during N3, take several minutes to fully reactivate. During this transition, performance on tasks requiring sharp attention is actually lower than after a night of no sleep at all. This is why waking abruptly from deep sleep can leave you feeling more distant for the next 20 to 30 minutes than if you had never slept. Deep sleep is not designed to be interrupted. The body knows this and holds it carefully. Sleepwalking, sleep talking, and related behaviors called parasomnias tend to occur during deep N3 sleep, not during REM sleep. Because the large muscles are not paralyzed during deep sleep, as they are during REM, it is possible for some individuals to partially rouse and engage in complex behaviors without fully waking. Sleepwalking is most common in children, and most children grow out of it as they age and their sleep proportions shift. The fact that sleepwalking occurs during deep sleep explains why sleepwalkers rarely recall or act out narrative dreams. The body moves, but the storytelling mind is still very far away. Deep sleep tends to be most abundant in young children, who may spend 30 to 40% of their total sleep time in N3. This proportion gradually decreases through adolescence and adulthood. By middle age, many people spend only 10 to 15% of their sleep in deep N3. The older some individuals have very little detectable slow-wave sleep. This age-related decline in deep sleep is one reason older adults often report feeling less fully rested despite sleeping adequate hours. Preserving the conditions that allow deep sleep to arrive, the consistent schedule, the cool room, the calm evening, becomes more meaningful, not less. As the years pass, scientists have found individual differences in deep sleep architecture that appear to be partly shaped by genetics. Some people naturally generate robust, slow-wave activity each night. Others have lighter sleep architecture, regardless of lifestyle. Specific gene variants have been associated with differences in the amount of slow-wave sleep and the density of sleep spindles. This does not mean that sleep quality is fixed. Environment, habits, stress, and physical health all profoundly shape the sleeping brain, but it does mean that some variation between people is real. and that the depth of your rest is worth tending to on its own terms, not compared to anyone else's. The microbiome, the vast community of microorganisms living in your gut, communicates with the brain through a network called the gut-brain axis. Research has found influences between gut microbiome composition and sleep quality in both directions. Certain species of gut bacteria produce precursors to neurotransmitters, including tryptophan, which the brain uses to make serotonin, and then from serotonin, melatonin. A disrupted microbiome may affect the production of these sleep-supporting molecules. Conversely, poor sleep alters microbiome composition. The body is woven together more completely than it appears, each system quietly influencing the others, all of them participating in the conditions for rest. The liver performs some of its most intensive work during sleep. Metabolic processes in the liver that involve the recycling of cellular components, the synthesis of proteins, and the clearing of certain substances from the blood are coordinated with the sleep-wake cycle through circadian clock genes in the liver's own cells. Irregular sleep timing, such as that experienced during shift work or extended jet lag, has been associated with disruptions in liver metabolism. Every organ in the body keeps time, and every organ's time is partly set by the regularity of your sleep. The body's production of new red blood cells is partly regulated by hormones whose release is coordinated with the sleep cycle. Growth hormone, surging during early deep sleep, plays a role in stimulating the bone marrow to produce new blood cells. This is one of the less noticed, but quietly significant ways in which the quality of deep sleep shapes the physical health of the body's tissues over time. The blood circulating through your body right now contains cells produced in part through the chemistry of past nights of sleep. You are, in a very literal sense, made of the rest you have taken. A study published in late 2025 found that people whose sleep varied by just 1 hour from night to night were associated with more than twice the likelihood of obstructive sleep apnea and were 71% more likely to have high blood pressure, compared to those with consistent sleep timing. The researchers noted this was an observational finding, with the causal direction still being studied, but the association was consistent and meaningful. The body's circadian system thrives on regularity, consistent sleep timing, more than any supplement or shortcut, gives the biological clock the stability it needs to coordinate deep sleep reliably. Night after night, a research group in New York trained an artificial intelligence system to analyze the brain waves, muscle activity, heart rate, and breathing patterns recorded during a full night of sleep. The system processed over 1 million hours of human sleep data, learning to classify sleep stages more accurately and consistently than traditional analysis methods. This technology, still in development, may eventually allow researchers to identify subtle patterns in sleep architecture that predict health risks years before any symptoms appear. Deep sleep, read closely enough, may carry a signature of the future. Every slow wave, a message the sleeping brain is sending to the years ahead. Here, 3/4 of the way through our journey, the answer to how to get deep sleep is fully present, not as a list of commands, but as a set of conditions. Cool the room, dim the lights earlier, move the body during the day, keep the timing of sleep consistent, ease the evening, Let caffeine and alcohol give way to quiet. And then, perhaps most importantly, stop trying to sleep. Simply make the conditions right. And then trust the body to do what it has always done. The body wants to reach deep sleep. It is always moving toward it. Your only task is to stop standing in the way. You might be feeling tired now. That is good. That is right. Breathe slowly. Your heart has been beating since before you were born. It has never once needed reminding. Your brain has been sleeping and waking in its own rhythm for your entire life. Both of these systems know what they are doing. Right now, sleep is not something you need to pursue. It is something you only need to stop resisting. Like a tide that doesn't try to reach the shore, it follows what was already there. You are almost there now. Let's continue. The sound of deep sleep, if there is one, is silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of everything tending to itself in its own careful way. Deep sleep is not unconsciousness. It is a different kind of presence, turned inward, attending to the body's interior world rather than the one outside. No sight, no sound, no thought reaching through, just the slow tide of the brain working in the dark, doing what it came to do. Growth hormone does not surge once and fade. It follows a series of pulses across the night, with the largest arriving in the first cycle of deep sleep, and smaller pulses following in subsequent cycles. Each pulse triggers a cascade of rebuilding throughout the body. Muscle, bone, skin, organ tissue. Every part of you participates. The night is not one long, unchanging state. It is a sequence of quiet, purposeful waves, each one carrying something your body needs. The brain uses deep sleep to do something that has no equivalent in the waking state. It slows itself down enough to hear itself. The slow, rolling oscillations of deep sleep may allow neurons that have been firing rapidly all day to recover their sensitivity, to reset the thresholds of their synapses, to return to a state of readiness. Without this reset, the ability to learn, to feel, to respond, gradually fades. Sleep is not a pause between days of living. It is part of what makes living possible, and right now, it is on its way to you. During N3 sleep, the body's inflammatory processes are carefully modulated. Certain inflammatory signals are suppressed. Others are redirected toward the sites where healing is most needed. The immune cells that patrol the body for damage and infection are partly orchestrated by the same circadian rhythms that govern sleep. The body heals most efficiently when given the uninterrupted quiet of a full night's rest, and every condition you have created tonight, the stillness, the cool, the slowing breath, is serving that healing right now. The air you breathe while in deep sleep carries less oxygen and more carbon dioxide than the air you breathe while awake. Simply because your breathing is slower and shallower, your body adapts. At rest, the tissues require less oxygen. The slower breathing is not a sign of inadequacy. It is a sign of sufficiency. The body drawing in exactly what it needs. No more, no less. With the quiet efficiency of a system running at its most natural pace. Research from Mass General Brigham showed that during NREM sleep, higher-order cognitive regions, the areas involved in deliberate thought and planning, show reduced blood flow and reduced metabolic activity, but sensory areas remain partially active, watching for important signals that might require waking The brain has not abandoned its post. It has simply changed what it is watching for and turned most of its attention inward. It is still there, still keeping you safe, still holding the quiet. The eyes are still beneath their lids during deep sleep. No rapid movement, no scanning, just quiet, resting in their sockets. The optic nerves carry no meaningful information during N3. The visual cortex dims. The world that exists through light and color recedes entirely, and yet the brain continues its slow, organized work. Indifferent to the dark, it has its own light, its own pace, its own purpose, running beneath all of this. A study published in 2026 found that vivid, immersive dreaming during lighter NREM sleep may help preserve the feeling of deep, restorative rest, even when some brain activity remains present. This challenges the older assumption that deep sleep is defined entirely by the absence of inner experience. The sleeping mind may be more layered and more active than the simple stages suggest. Sleep science is still young in this way. Each new finding opens more questions than it closes. And that openness is part of its beauty. The heart during deep sleep is a quieter heart, but it is not an idle one. It continues its rhythmic work with less effort than at any other time of day. The blood it pumps carries oxygen, nutrients, and hormones to every tissue. The cells receiving these deliveries use the quiet of sleep to do their most careful repairs. The heart and the cells it serves are working together in the dark, each tending to the other, without direction, without effort, in the way that living systems tend to themselves when given enough stillness. The brain's threshold for waking is at its highest during deep sleep. A sound that might rouse you easily from light N2 sleep may not penetrate N3 at all. This impermeability is part of what makes deep sleep so restorative. The brain has, for this time, withdrawn its attention from the outside world. It is not available. It is elsewhere, doing the work that only deep sleep allows, and it does this most completely when the environment is cool, dark, and consistent, which is to say, when you have made the conditions right. Scientists have found that the amount of deep sleep a person gets on a given night is influenced by how mentally demanding the previous day was. A day of intense cognitive work tends to produce stronger slow-wave activity the following night. The brain appears to track the work it has done and to calibrate the depth of its recovery accordingly. The night is not separate from the day. It is its continuation, the quiet answer to everything the waking hours asked. And it arrives more fully when you have created the space for it. Stress hormones, particularly cortisol, follow a strong circadian pattern, reaching their lowest point in the first hours of sleep and rising steadily toward their peak in the early morning. Just before waking, deep sleep, which occupies those early hours when cortisol is lowest, takes place in the quietest hormonal landscape the body experiences. It is in this hormonal valley, sheltered from the alerting chemistry of waking life, that the deepest restoration happens. A calm evening, free of late stress and bright light, helps keep that valley deep. The body's connective tissues, the tendons, ligaments, cartilage, and fascia that hold everything together, are repaired and maintained partly during sleep. The hormonal environment of deep sleep, particularly the surges in growth hormone, that arrive during the early cycles appears to support collagen synthesis and tissue repair. Based on both animal research and observations of healing rates in humans, injuries to joints and connective tissue tend to heal more slowly in those with poor sleep quality. The body's repair schedule, at every level, is organized around the architecture of the night. Some researchers have proposed that deep sleep may play a role in emotional learning. Separate from REM sleep's role in emotional processing, while REM sleep appears to soften the emotional charge of difficult memories, deep sleep may help consolidate the neutral, factual aspects of emotional experiences, separating what happened from how it felt. This two-stage process would allow the sleeping brain to file memories with both their content and their emotional weight addressed. It is a gentle and patient sorting, happening every night, without your awareness or your effort. Consistently, good, deep sleep changes how the world is experienced. The evidence for this is now substantial enough to say clearly, deep sleep shapes emotional reactivity, cognitive flexibility, pain sensitivity, immune resilience, hormonal balance, and the long-term structural health of the brain. All of these together determine, in large part, how manageable the world feels, how clearly you can think within it. The person who wakes from good deep sleep is, biologically, in a different state than the one who wakes from poor sleep, not different in character or values, but in the physiological foundation from which those things operate. And that foundation is rebuilt every night that you give yourself the conditions to truly rest. The brain during deep sleep is maintaining its own infrastructure, strengthening the connections that matter, clearing what no longer serves, preparing for the day to come. The slow waves of deep sleep are real electrical events. The cleaning fluid moving through the brain is real fluid. The growth hormone is real chemistry. The memory transfer is real neural firing. All of this happens quietly and reliably every night, whether you are aware of it or not. It is not metaphor, it is biology, and it is always waiting for you. Early experiments in the past century made one thing unmistakably clear. Animals and humans alike showed profound declines in every measure of well-being when deprived of sleep for extended periods. The body did not negotiate. It simply insisted. Sleep is not optional, and deep sleep is its most essential form. Every morning, after a night of genuine rest, the body makes this case quietly, not with urgency, but with the simple evidence of how it feels to be restored. The discovery of the glymphatic system changed the way sleep scientists think about why we sleep. Before that discovery, it was not fully clear why the brain could not simply rest and repair like other organs while awake. The glymphatic system made it plain that sleep serves functions the brain cannot accomplish any other way. The brain must be still enough, and its rhythms slow enough, for the cleaning fluid to move effectively through its tissue. Deep sleep creates exactly those conditions. The slow waves are not merely a byproduct of the sleeping brain. They are the mechanism, the rhythm that makes the cleaning possible. Your body knows how to sleep. It has always known, before you learned words for it, before you knew what a brainwave was, or what a glymphatic system was, or what a delta oscillation was. The rhythm was already there, built into the deepest layers of your biology, shared by every creature with a nervous system complex enough to require this kind of maintenance. When you lie down tonight, and your breath slows, and your eyes grow still. You are not doing something you have learned. You are returning to something you have always carried. In the last facts of this journey, the words grow quieter, not because the science runs out, but because the state itself asks for quietness. Deep sleep does not arrive in the presence of analysis or effort. It arrives in the pause between one thought and the next, in the space after the breath, in the moment when the body simply becomes heavier than the mind can hold. You have been moving toward that moment since we began tonight, and it is very close now. The slow wave is the slowest rhythm the brain produces. Half a Hertz, less than one full cycle per second. In the waking world, half a second is barely a pause. In the brain's sleeping world, it is a long, deep breath, a rolling tide moving across the cortex, a wave of silence followed by a brief, coordinated surge, then silence again. This is the sound, if you could hear it, of a brain at its most deeply restored. The sleeping body is not absent. It is present in a different way. The breath continues. The heart continues. The blood moves. The organs work. The cells divide and repair. All of this, while awareness has gone somewhere else. Where does awareness go during deep sleep? This remains one of the last frontiers of neuroscience. A question at the boundary between science and philosophy. For now, it is enough to know that somewhere in the slow, dark rhythms of the sleeping brain, you are being kept safe. The morning after a night of good deep sleep, the world arrives differently. Not with less complexity, but with more capacity to meet it. The prefrontal cortex refreshed, the amygdala quieted, the immune system prepared, the hormones balanced, the memory organized, the tissues repaired. You are not simply rested, you are rebuilt. And this rebuilding happens, as it always has, in the dark, in the slow, in the quiet that your body makes when you finally stop and let it. Every night, the brain produces thousands of slow waves during deep sleep. Each wave sweeps across the cortex in less than a second. Each one carries with it the body's most powerful maintenance signal over a lifetime of healthy sleep. Those waves amount to an enormous investment in the brain's integrity. Scientists believe the cumulative effect of years of good, deep sleep shapes not just how sharp the mind remains as we age, but how gracefully the entire brain ages. The slow wave is small, but a lifetime of it adds up to something very large. And so we arrive at the last fact, which is perhaps the simplest one. You are already on your way. The body began moving toward deep sleep the moment you settled in tonight. The adenosine was already building. The core temperature was already dropping. The melatonin was already rising. The thalamus was already beginning to close its gate. Deep sleep does not require your effort. It requires only your presence and your willingness to stop doing everything else. You have done that tonight. The conditions are right. The rest, quite literally, takes care of itself. And so, our quiet journey through deep sleep comes to a gentle close. We traveled from the first trembling edge of drowsiness, where the hypnic jerk loosens the nervous system's grip on the waking world, through the slow electrical tides of deep N3, through the glymphatic system's nightly rinse and the body's long cascade of rebuilding, all the way to this final, soft moment of arrival, We learned about the norepinephrine waves that drive the brain's cleaning rhythm, and the growth hormone surge that rebuilds muscle and bone before midnight. We glimpsed the sharp wave ripples filing memories into the long-term archive, and the thalamus standing watch so the deeper parts of you could descend without interruption. From the very first slow wave to the morning after, when the world arrives with more grace than it left with, the science of deep sleep is also the science of what it means to tend to yourself, to create the conditions, to allow what the body already knows how to do. Deep sleep reminds us that the most important work often happens in silence, and that restoration is not passive. The body, left to its own wisdom and given the right conditions, knows exactly what to do, without words, without instruction, without any help from the waking mind. It tends to itself in the dark, the way a garden tends to itself through winter, quietly preparing for what comes next. This is not a small thing. It is, perhaps, one of the most quietly profound things a living body does. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about unity, the slow wave in your sleeping brain, the slow tide of the ocean, the slow turning of the seasons. Every cycle in the living world moves between activity and rest, between fullness and quiet. You are part of that same movement. You are not separate from it. Let your entire being dissolve into the slow wave, into the tide that is already moving through you, carrying everything outward, making room for everything to come. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. If this gentle journey through the science of deep sleep helped you relax, or brought you a little closer to the rest you came here for, a quiet like or a soft subscribe helps another restless mind find its way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But there is nothing you need to do now, nothing at all. You have traveled far tonight, through facts and science and the quiet language of a sleeping brain. You can allow all of it to fade now, the way the last light fades at the edge of the horizon, leaving only the warm, unheld dark behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if something patient and very old is holding you down into the earth. Gently, without pressure, without demand, simply holding you. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way a slow wave carries everything. Not rushing, not asking, not forcing, simply moving in the direction it has always moved, into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they are closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, the slow waves will come again. The body will do its quiet work again. The conditions will return, and the brain will follow them home. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul, and remember, the deepest restoration happens in the places you cannot see. Good night.